I saw him from my bedroom window at 5:32 a.m., November 3rd, 1985, standing at the edge of my property, motionless, massive, 8 feet of muscle and fur silhouetted against the pre-dawn sky, just standing there, watching my house. I hadn't seen him in 10 years, not since that night in 1975 when I'd pulled him from a steel leg trap, when I'd removed 3 bullets from his shoulder while he bled out on my living room floor, when I'd hidden him from the hunters who'd wounded him and were tracking him to finish the kill, when I'd spent 6 weeks nursing him back to health before he disappeared into the forest without a trace. Now he was back, and he was holding something, cradled carefully in his massive hands, something wrapped in bark and moss. As I watched, he set it down on my porch, looked directly at my window, somehow knowing exactly where I was, even in the darkness, made a sound, low, rumbling, unmistakably deliberate, then turned and walked back into the forest. By the time I got outside, he was gone, but what he'd left behind, what I found wrapped in that bark, changed everything I thought I understood about debt, memory, and gratitude across species. My name is Daniel Crawford. I'm 78 years old. This story starts in October 1975 when I was 43, living alone in a cabin in the Cascade Mountains of Oregon. I am a veterinarian. Spent 20 years in private practice before burning out and moving to the wilderness to escape people and their demands. Thought I was done healing anything. Thought I'd spend my remaining years in solitary peace. Then came the night that changed everything. October 18th, 1975, around 9 p.m. I was reading by lamplight when I heard the sounds. Gunshots, 3 of them, close, maybe half a mile away. Then shouting, men's voices, excited, aggressive, the voices of hunters who'd just made a kill, or thought they had. I went to my window, looked out into the darkness, saw flashlight beams moving through the trees, heard more shouting, then engines starting, trucks driving away. Silence. I should have stayed inside, should have minded my own business. But something felt wrong. The excitement in those voices, the way they'd fired multiple shots, the way they'd left so quickly. Something about it bothered me. I grabbed my flashlight and medical bag, old habits die hard, even in retirement, and went to investigate. Followed the direction of the gunshots, found the site within 20 minutes, and what I saw made my blood run cold. A leg-hold trap, massive steel jaws, the kind that's been illegal for decades now, but was still used by poachers back then, bolted to a tree and caught in it, bleeding, struggling weakly, was something that shouldn't exist. At first, I thought, bear, large bear, but the proportions were wrong, too tall, arms too long. And as I got closer with my flashlight, I saw the face. Human-like, but not human, heavy brow, flat nose, covered in dark brown fur matted with blood, a Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Whatever name you want to use for a creature science said didn't exist. Caught in a trap, shot 3 times based on the blood and wounds I could see, left to die by hunters who'd been too afraid to finish what they'd started. The creature saw me, tried to pull away, made a sound. Pain and fear combined. Expecting me to kill it, to finish what the hunters had started. It was dying. Maybe hours left. The leg was mangled from the trap. The bullet wounds were bleeding. It was already weak from blood loss. I should have walked away, should have let nature take its course, should have protected myself from the impossible situation I was walking into, but I couldn't. I'm a veterinarian. I took an oath. I'd spent 20 years healing animals. Couldn't watch anything die in agony when I had the skills to help. I'm going to get you out of that trap, I said quietly. I'm going to help. But you have to let me. You have to trust me. Can you do that? The creature stared at me. Intelligence in those eyes. Clear intelligence, processing my words, my tone, my body language, deciding. Then, slowly, it stopped struggling, went still, made a soft sound, almost like acceptance, agreement. I'll trust you. I have no choice. I approached carefully. The trap was horrific. Steel jaws had crushed the leg just above the ankle. Bones were definitely broken. Tissue damage was severe. But I'd dealt with worse. I'd freed dogs from traps, cats from car engines, wild animals from human cruelty. This was just bigger, much bigger. I used my tools, crowbar I'd brought, wedged it into the trap mechanism, slowly, carefully pried it open. The creature made sounds, pain, but didn't pull away, trusted me, let me work. When the jaws finally released, it gasped, pulled the leg free. Blood everywhere. "We need to stop that bleeding," I said, "and get those bullets out. My cabin is 20 minutes that way. Can you walk? Can you make it?" The creature tried to stand, collapsed. Too weak, too much blood lost. It made a sound, frustrated, defeated, dying. I made a decision that was either brave or insane. "I'm going to help you walk. Put your arm over my shoulders. We're going to my cabin, together." Oh, I positioned myself next to it. The size difference was absurd. I'm 5'10", maybe 170 pounds. This creature was over 8 feet and probably 700 pounds. But it was weak, dying, and between its desperate effort to survive and my determination to help, we made it work. I got under its shoulder, took as much weight as I could. On 3, 1, 2, 3. We stood together. It wavered, nearly fell. I braced, held firm. "I've got you. We're going to move slow, one step at a time." Key, step by agonizing step. Its weight crushing my shoulder, my legs shaking. Its breathing labored, blood leaving a trail behind us. Every few steps we'd have to stop, let it rest, let me readjust, then continue. 20 minutes that felt like hours, my muscles screaming, its sounds of pain breaking my heart. But we made it, got it to my cabin. The door was too low, it had to crawl through on hands and knees. I helped it inside. My living room floor was the only space large enough. I grabbed every blanket I owned, made a pad, helped it lie down, and immediately started assessing the damage. 3 bullet wounds, 1 in the right shoulder, entry and exit, passed clean through, missed the joint. Thank God. 2 in the upper right arm, both still had bullets lodged, would need to be removed. The leg was worse. The trap had crushed it just above the ankle. I could see bone fragments. Tissue was pulped. This would take hours of work. I ran to my medical supplies. I'd kept everything when I retired: surgical tools, sutures, antibiotics, pain medication, IV equipment, everything I'd need for major trauma. Never thought I'd use it again. Now it might save an impossible life. I started an IV, saline to replace fluids, added antibiotics, broad spectrum, hoping his biology was close enough to mammals I knew, gave morphine for pain, a lot of morphine. His size required doses that would kill a human, hoped it would just take the edge off for him. The creature watched everything, eyes tracking my movements, assessing. Was I helping or hurting, friend or threat? But it didn't resist, lay still, let me work. Even when I knew it must have hurt like hell, I started with the bullets, needed them out before infection set in. The shoulder wound was clean, passed through. I irrigated it, debrided dead tissue, sutured the entry and exit, standard procedure, but the arm wounds needed surgery. I sterilized my instruments, used local anesthetic around the wounds, hoped it worked on his species, felt him flinch when I injected it, made soft sounds, but he didn't pull away, just gripped my floor with his free hand, enduring. I made the incision, extended the wound track, found the first bullet, embedded in muscle. I worked carefully, trying not to damage more tissue than necessary, got forceps around it, pulled gently, it came free. A mangled .30 Liro-6 round hunting rifle designed to kill elk or bear would have been lethal with better placement. Second bullet was deeper, lodged near the bone. This was delicate. One slip could shatter the humerus. I worked slowly, carefully, praying my hands didn't shake, found it, grasped it, extracted it. Another mangled round. These hunters had been trying to kill it. Multiple shots, heavy caliber, they'd meant to bring it down. With both bullets out, I irrigated heavily, packed the wounds with antibiotic gauze, sutured them closed, layer by layer. Muscle, fascia. Skin, clean, neat closures, minimizing scar tissue, giving it the best chance to heal. Then came the leg, the worst damage. I examined it carefully. 2 bones, tibia and fibula, equivalent to what I knew, both fractured, multiple fragments, soft tissue crushed. But miraculously, the major artery and nerves seemed intact. It could be saved. The leg could be saved. I had to set the bones, align the fragments. This would hurt, even with morphine, even with local anesthetic. This would hurt like nothing else. "This is going to be bad," I told it. "I'm sorry, but I have to do this or you'll never walk right again." It looked at me, gave what I swear was a nod. "Do it. I understand. I trust you." I gripped the leg, applied traction, felt the bones grind, heard the creature make a sound. Agony, pure agony, but it didn't pull away, didn't fight. Let me work. I aligned the fragments as best I could by feel, got them approximately correct, then splinted, wrapped, immobilized. This would need weeks to heal properly, but it would heal. By the time I finished, dawn was breaking. I'd worked through the entire night. My hands were cramping, my back was screaming, but I'd done it. Removed bullets, set bones, sutured wounds, given medications, done everything I could. Now it was up to his body, his immune system, his will to survive. I sat back, exhausted, looked at my patient, this impossible patient, lying on my floor, breathing steadily, sleeping from morphine, alive. Against all odds, alive. I made coffee, sat by the fire, watched him sleep, and thought, what have I done? I'd saved a life. But was it right? Was it safe? Would he turn on me when he woke? Would he remember I'd helped? Would he understand? I didn't know, couldn't know. But watching that steady breathing, seeing the color return to his face, noting the way the bleeding had stopped, I knew I'd made the right choice. Whatever happened next, I'd given him a chance. That's all any healer can do. Over the following days, I cared for it, changed bandages, monitored for infection, gave medications, brought food, berries, fish, whatever I had. It ate, healed, watched me constantly with those intelligent eyes. We couldn't communicate with words, but communication happened. I'd gesture, it would respond. Simple things. Are you in pain? Nod or shake of head. Can you eat more? Gesture toward mouth, yes or no. Do you need water? Reach or turn away. Basic but effective. By the end of week 2, it was sitting up. By week 3, standing with the splint. By week 4, walking slowly around my cabin. By week 6, almost fully recovered. The leg would always have a slight limp, but it was alive, functional, ready to return to the wild. I knew it needed to go, couldn't stay in my cabin forever. And it knew, too. I could see it in the way it looked toward the windows, toward the forest, toward home. One morning in early December, I woke to find my front door open. The creature gone, just like that. No goodbye, no acknowledgement. Just gone, like I'd imagined the whole thing, except for the bloodstains on my floor I couldn't fully remove. The torn bandages I'd left in a bucket. The empty bottles of antibiotics. The proof that something impossible had happened. I told no one. Who would believe me? And even if they did, what then? Scientists would come. Hunters would come. The creature would be tracked, captured, killed. I'd saved its life. I wouldn't destroy it for fame or validation. Life continued. I went back to my solitary existence, tried to process what had happened. Sometimes wondered if I'd made it up, if loneliness had driven me to fantasy, but I knew it was real, knew what I'd done, knew somewhere in the forest was a Sasquatch that was alive because I'd helped it. 10 years passed. 1975 to 1985, a decade. I was 53 now, older, grayer, more settled into my isolation. The memory of that night had faded from immediate to distant, something that had happened once, long ago, in another life. Then came November 3rd, 1985. That morning I woke early, 5:30 a.m., still dark, winter coming on. I went to make coffee, glanced out my bedroom window, and froze. He was standing there, at the edge of my property where forest met clearing, massive, unmistakable, the same creature. I knew immediately, the way he stood, the tilt of his head, the slight favoring of his left leg. It was him. After 10 years, he'd come back. We stared at each other through the window, dawn light just starting to break. Him standing motionless in the cold, me with my hand on the window glass. 10 years collapsed to nothing. Then he moved, slowly, deliberately. Walked toward my cabin, not threatening, purposeful. He stopped at my porch, reached into a pouch he wore, made from hide and plant fibers, slung across his shoulder, pulled something out, set it carefully on my porch, then looked directly at my window, made a sound. That same low rumble I remembered from a decade ago. Acknowledgement, thanks, goodbye. Then he turned and walked back into the forest. By the time I got dressed and went outside, he was gone, disappeared like a ghost. Like he'd never been there, but on my porch was proof, what he'd left behind. Wrapped carefully in bark and moss, tied with plant fibers, a package, a gift delivered after 10 years, across impossible distances and time, remembering, returning, repaying. I picked it up, unwrapped it carefully. The bark was cedar, naturally antibacterial. The moss was fresh, kept the contents moist and protected. The plant fibers binding it were woven with remarkable skill. This wasn't just thrown together. This was carefully prepared, thoughtfully assembled. A gift worthy of a decade's gratitude. And inside, oh God, inside, medicinal plants, dozens of them, carefully selected, carefully preserved, some dried, some fresh, some prepared, in ways I didn't immediately understand. I recognized some from my training. Devil's Club, the inner bark, bright green, powerful anti-inflammatory and anti-infection properties. Kinnikinnick, the leaves, dried perfectly, used for urinary tract issues. Wild ginger, roots still fragrant, for digestive problems and as a general antibiotic. But there were plants I didn't recognize, species I'd never encountered in textbooks, growing in remote places only his kind would know, each labeled, not with words but with carved symbols on small pieces of bark attached to each bundle, pictographs showing what parts to use, how to prepare them, what ailments they treated. I spread them out on my porch, counted them, 23 different plants, a complete pharmacy from the forest, knowledge that represented thousands of years of observation and experimentation, his people's medical tradition, being gifted to me. But it wasn't just the plants. Included in the package were larger pieces of bark, carved with detailed instructions. I studied them carefully. They showed how to make poultices, mash the plant, add water, apply to wounds, how to brew teas, specific plants, specific steeping times, how to extract essences, using tree resin as a carrier for concentrated medicines, which plants work together, combinations that amplified effects, which plants to avoid combining, dangerous interactions, dosages, shown through pictographs of different-sized animals, small dose for small animal, larger for larger. It was a complete medical manual carved into bark, simple enough that anyone could follow it, sophisticated that it contained knowledge I'd never encountered in veterinary school. This wasn't primitive folk medicine. This was advanced pharmacology, just presented differently, just developed by a different intelligence through a different path. And at the bottom of the package, wrapped separately in soft hide, was the carved wooden piece. Two figures, large one lying down, smaller one kneeling beside it. The larger figure's leg was wrapped, You could see the splint carved in detail. The smaller figure held tools, recognizable surgical instruments. The scene was remarkably detailed, anatomically accurate. This was art. This was history. This was memorial. He'd carved this, kept it for 10 years, as a reminder of what I'd done, as a testament to the bond formed that night. And now he was giving it to me, sharing the memory, saying, "This happened, this mattered, don't forget." I stood on my porch holding these gifts, the early morning sun just breaking over the mountains, the forest silent around me, tears streaming down my face. He'd remembered. For 10 years, through whatever life he'd lived, through miles of wilderness, through seasons and changes, he'd remembered. And he'd prepared this, gathered these plants, created these instructions, carved this memorial, and finally returned to give it to me. It was reciprocity on a level I'd never imagined. Not just thank you, but here, let me repay you by helping you help others. Knowledge for knowledge, healing for healing. A gift that would keep giving long after both of us were gone. Over the following months, years, decades, I've used that knowledge constantly. That first winter, a local farmer's dog got a severe infection. Antibiotics weren't working. I remembered the Usnea lichen from the package, made a poultice following the pictographs, applied it to the wound. 3 days later, the infection was clearing. 1 week later, completely healed. A cat with chronic digestive issues, wild ginger tea, prepared exactly as shown. Symptoms resolved within days. The owner thought it was a miracle. It wasn't. It was knowledge, ancient knowledge, Sasquatch knowledge. A deer someone found wounded by barbed wire, deep lacerations, risk of infection. Devil's Club bark paste, yarrow poultice, both from the package, both prepared according to the carvings. The deer healed perfectly, scars barely visible. Over 39 years, I've used those plants and that knowledge to save hundreds of animals, dogs, cats, horses, wildlife, everything. And it works, consistently, reliably, better than many modern medicines in certain applications. Not because it's magical, because it's knowledge, tested over millennia, refined over countless generations. Knowledge I never would have had without that gift. I documented everything, took photos of the carved instructions, pressed samples of each plant, wrote detailed notes on preparation methods and applications, tested them systematically, verified what worked and what didn't, built a complete database. Now, at 78, I'm donating it all to the Pacific Northwest School of Natural Medicine to be preserved, studied, taught, so that knowledge doesn't die with me, so that his gift, his people's gift, continues, helps more, saves more, forever. Because that's what he intended, not just to repay a debt, but to create a legacy, to share knowledge that could reduce suffering across species and across time. That's gratitude. That's wisdom. That's what separates intelligence from instinct. I never saw him again, but I've used his gift for 39 years now, saved countless animals with the knowledge he gave me. And every time I use one of those plants, I think of him, the creature I saved in 1975, who saved me in return in 1985, not from death, from meaninglessness, from the illusion that my actions didn't matter, from the belief that connection was impossible across unbridgeable divides. I'm 78 now, not many years left, but I've documented everything, the plants, the pictographs, the preparation methods. I'm donating it all to a natural medicine archive. So his knowledge, his people's knowledge, will continue, will help, will heal, long after both of us are gone. That's what I learned from a wounded Sasquatch I saved from hunters in 1975. That debt and gratitude transcend species. That intelligence and culture exist in forms we don't recognize. That healing creates bonds that last decades. That memory and acknowledgement matter more than we know. I saved a wounded Bigfoot from hunters. 10 years later, it returned with medical knowledge in its hands. Knowledge that saved hundreds of lives since. Knowledge that will save thousands more. That's not myth. That's not legend. That's reciprocity. That's gratitude. That's what really matters. And that carved wooden piece, the representation of that night in 1975, sits on my mantle. Reminds me every day that we're never truly alone, that our actions ripple across time and species, that kindness is never wasted, and that sometimes, impossibly, it comes back to us, changed, amplified, more valuable than we ever imagined.